to the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce Business Spotlight, where we introduce local businesses to the community and the world at large via social media. Hi, my name is Alan Cohen. I'm on the board of directors for the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce, and it is my pleasure to introduce these community leaders to you. Today, I have a wonderful guest with us. Her name is Kimberly Paton. She's the owner and founding partner of the Paton Law Firm LLC here in Fair Lawn. I'd like to introduce Kimberly to you right now. Hi, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Alan. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. It's wonderful to have you as well. And I look forward to hearing about your firm. You are the owner and the founding partner of this firm. So please tell us about it.
Well, it's a great firm. I'm on Broadway. I've been an attorney for 35 years, and I've practiced in various areas of practice. But we moved into Fair Lawn 3 years ago, the office. I started my own firm 15 years ago. I've been living in Fair Lawn for 22 years. I raised our children here. They went to Radburn and TJ. We've always enjoyed all the social benefits of living in Fair Lawn. The all sports programs, the summer camps, the schools are great. Memorial Day parades were always great. I'm hoping to get back to those after COVID, fireworks. So I decided, let me move my office here. And I was very pleased to find out it's also a great place to work. So I joined the chamber. And when we moved in 3 years ago, thanks to Tony, who invited me, and I got to know some really nice people in the chamber. Looking forward to being able to get back to in-person meetings. Not sure exactly when that's going to happen.
Yes, that's great. It was wonderful to hear that. So how long is this practice here in Fair Lawn is how many years?
I started my own practice 15 years ago with just me and Lisa Graff, who is my office administrator, chief cook and bottle washer from the beginning.
That's great.
And she's been with me all this time, and I now have an associate attorney that works for me, 2 paralegals, 4 assistants, a receptionist, a bookkeeper. We are looking for another administrative assistant. So if anybody has somebody to recommend, please do. Send it to the Paton Law Firm, just 1 T in Paton.
All right, I like that plug right away. You're also getting hopefully somebody to work for you.
I hope so.
I was ready to go into song and dance when you said that we're here on Broadway, so I was going to sing on Broadway, of course.
It just goes through your head, right?
So tell us about your services and what's your particular, your expertise in law.
I actually have a broad expertise or broad experience in a lot of different areas. I handle real estate, purchases, sales, refinances, short sales, as we were discussing earlier, Alan. I also do asset protection planning, Medicaid planning, veterans planning, estate planning. So pretty standard estate that most people need. Everybody needs this. This is the first layer, and you probably don't need more than this for a while. To have a will that says what happens when you die, who gets your assets, who's in charge of it, a financial power of attorney so somebody can handle your bill paying, and asset protection if you are not capable of doing so, healthcare proxy in case you need somebody to talk to your doctors on your behalf, and a living will, what are your end-of-life decisions, asset protection from creditors and from long-term care needs, which is Medicaid. Everybody's concerned about Medicaid. We also handle estate administrations, guardianships, evictions, and that really is Aaron. Aaron Lewis is my associate attorney. I really, really love the estate planning, elder law, asset protection area.
That's terrific. Let me ask you, do you think many people not forget, but neglect to get this part together, or they keep putting it off, and now you're catching up on maybe what they missed out on, for a while.
I think that's really it. I don't think it's neglect or it's benign neglect because nobody wants to think about their death. Nobody expects that they're going to be disabled or incapacitated. We all hope and figure that we're just going to stay healthy and then one day pass in our sleep. And this day is going to be very, very long away from now. So people do forget. So we are always reminding people to at least get that first layer of planning. There are more layers of planning. If you have a special needs child, we add a layer of planning. If your assets are over $11 million right now, there's a tax planning that we need to add to it. But you need to be aware that sometimes the will that you made, and they made their will maybe when they first got their first young baby, and now it's 30 years later. And their mother is still in as guardian and as executor, and she's just not capable of it in that role, which becomes a problem. It's not a huge problem, but it can be a problem if a person dies and their mother is named as the executor and she's not capable. We have to go through a court proceeding now to have her changed. Now, if everybody's getting along, that's not a horrible thing to do. If people start fighting, now we're in a big contest in court and it slows down the process. So it's always good to have the documents, have them updated as appropriate, and make sure you have all the originals or you know where the originals are. So we always keep the originals, almost always keep the originals in our fire safe in our office. We give our clients certified true copies so that they can refer to them if they need to without worrying about tearing them or spilling coffee on it or unstapling them, writing on them. When you do something like that to an original document, you now have a possibility of somebody saying, well, mom meant to cancel that will because she said she was giving me everything, and now we're in court fighting over a will. So I think people forget. Another thing people forget is if they get divorced, go back and change your will. And the moment you think you're being divorced, change your will, because it's probably not your intentions that your ex-spouse will get everything. And if you do have a will, it probably says that. If I die, everything goes to my spouse. I would also like to remind everybody when they're doing this, don't forget your other assets, not just your will, your other assets too. Your life insurance beneficiary, you're the beneficiary on your 401k, the beneficiary on your bank account. Make sure they're updated and make sure that they are what you want.
Yeah, that's terrific. So not only at life-changing events, but would you also refer to what you have already done? Do you suggest maybe every 2-3 years or at least 5 years?
I do 5 years. Yeah, I'm right with you there, Alan. Every 5 years, just think about it. You may not change anything. You absolutely may not change anything, but if you have to think about it, life-changing events, absolutely, because that is a big event. But after 5 years, all the little small events add up. And something like, you named your son as your executor and now they're living in California. Well, you didn't quite realize that affects your will. But when you're thinking about it 5 years later, hey, well, maybe my daughter who lives here in Fair Lawn should be the person that should be the executor. That might make things easier.
Yeah, I think I'm guilty of that too. I got to call you right after. I got to get on the phone right after this call, this interview, because we made a will. Obviously, we did it, and then the attorney passed away. He was from Fair Lawn, and we've been thinking of revising it. And obviously, not obviously, but my daughters are now no longer young children here in Fair Lawn. They graduated college. There's a whole different level of the way we would have to split things up. Who would leave it to? Back then, my sister-in-law would be in charge of them because they were underage. So I'm agreeing with you. I think our will is way old and needs to be revised, and I'm sure many other people. So that's a great tip. I
You know what? And what I also like to tell people is sometimes you don't have to update it just because of a natural change, depending on how it was drafted.
Yes.
So I draft my wills to endure natural changes. The children do grow up. Well, you don't need the guardianship paragraph in the will, but you don't have to change your will just to take out the guardianship paragraph. You would have to change the will if it says my sister-in-law is the is the executor, and it's just not appropriate anymore. Now you have mature daughters that can do that. The other thing that, and this is kind of due to COVID, where you see how unexpected life is, and how unpredictable it is. So very strong marriages have not survived COVID. Very strong businesses have not survived COVID. So you mentioned that you had a trust in your will for the children when they were minors.
Yes.
I actually have a trust that I love that I put into, it's in my will, and I recommend it to everybody, is to have a trust for my children, even if they're older, so for their life. However, so my son is trustee of his own trust. He's named as trustee. This long trust, this lifetime trust, is really designed to protect my money from my son's creditors. So as long as he follows the rules and that money's inside the trust, he has a lot of flexibility, but it's still protecting it. So there's more techniques that you realize that you used to think were only for the uber wealthy, but they really are for the average person now also.
Yeah, that's great tip. And obviously, if the person has real estate, so now they're passing it down to their children. If it's not specifically who gets what, how much, or what percentage goes to each child, if there's more than one, that could get to be a sticky situation. And like you said, that could hold up the process. So now, God forbid the person passes away, the child wants to sell the property, they put it on the market. Next thing you know, it gets tied up in the courts before they could even release the property. So that's a problem as well.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, or fortunately, fortunately for mom, she had one child that stayed home and stayed with her. And this is a family dynamic that happens a lot. So that child brought mom some companionship and comfort. And the other kids see it as he's been mooching off of mom all these years. So when mom passes, it can add to that whole dynamic of how should we sell the house? Where is our brother going to live? And depending on their dynamics, that could add to the delay.
Yeah. You also mentioned a living will. I think a lot of people also might skip that. They may make a regular will and I'm covered. But now, well, how important is it to have a living will?
Living will is also very important. And, you hit the nail on the head when you're saying that these are so complicated and people don't understand that you really need all of them. So I've had people come to me and say they have a will, but they actually only signed a living will in a hospital just before they had surgery. So, and that usually is not a living will that will last after you're done with that hospital stay. So a living will is especially important for your family comfort and for yourself, because what the living will says is, if I have a horrible car accident and 2 doctors say there is no chance of recovery, what do I want? Do I want to be kept alive on a machine? And this applies for an injury or an illness. Do I want to be kept alive on a machine? Do I want to be kept alive on a feeding tube? And who do I trust to enforce that? So that's your agent. So I always recommend name one agent, a backup agent, and if you can get to another backup agent, do that, because these are the natural changes in life. This first agent may not be alive anymore, may be too old to enforce this for you. So you want to protect yourself. It has a different role in your plan. The will is for when you die, and people are not recognizing that is not a living will. A living will is for the one situation where, do I want to be kept alive on a machine?
Yeah. So the living will is for that. So you call them agents here, where when we are talking about the regular will, we're talking about beneficiaries or trustees. So in the living will, it's actually called an agent?
Agent. And the living will is an agent. For the role, that's the one that's enforcing your wishes. In a will, it's called an executor, and that is the one enforcing your wishes. The trustee takes control of the money when you have say a minor child, that might be your sister or to make sure that the child doesn't just blow that money. And as I said, with a very special technique, my son can become trustee of his own trust and protect the assets, not from himself anymore, but from third parties. Right. If you have a financial power of attorney, a different job, it's a different job for this person. They're also called an agent or an attorney in fact, or a lot of people call them a power of attorney. They call the person a power of attorney or a POA. It all means the same thing. You're acting as an agent. You're stepping into somebody's shoes to make, in a financial power of attorney, you're making financial decisions for the person. Yeah. In a healthcare proxy, it's also called an agent or a POA. They'll call it a medical POA. So there's a lot of different words out there, and that's just adds to this complexity of this area of law. And that one is for medical decisions. Now, this might be the exact same person right across the board. Mm-hmm. This could easily be, my spouse first, my son second, my daughter third. Yes. If your children are old enough. Yes. Don't get technically and legally at 18, they're allowed to serve in these capacities. But think about all of the responsibility you're asking of these agents and the executor. Is that fair to put to an 18-year-old? Can they really handle it? Hmm.
What I really enjoy about speaking with you right now is that you lay it out so clearly for the layman. I mean, obviously, it's technical from the law side of it, but I'm sure, our viewers could understand exactly what you're saying in an easy, this is what it is, but it's easy to understand. I think that's very important because a lot of times you talk to an attorney and things go right over your head. What are they talking about? What are they doing? So is that something that you, obviously you do, but you're consciously trying to make it so people could understand exactly what they need. So you're not giving them more than they need, and you're not giving them less than they need.
Absolutely. And actually, I have to tell you, it goes back to my days at NYU in one of my English courses, where somebody wrote this amazing paper and a vocabulary that had us all of our students, like scratching our heads because we didn't understand it. And we're so impressed. And let me say, we were all impressed until the professor said, well, that's beautiful. What did it mean? Yeah, right. And nobody could say it. So I always remember that. I always try to make things as understandable as possible. What I work in my office is to understand what the person needs, what they want, and how to accomplish it. What I do is I have flat fees for this area of the law, because I don't want people worried about taking too much time and thinking the fee is increasing because they're explaining to me about their daughter-in-law or their son-in-law or how their daughter gets influenced by the son. And as much as they want this, they're afraid of it. And how do we deal with it? So flat fee, people come to me, they know what it's going to cost from the beginning, assuming no unforeseen situations. Sure. But, and I get to know them better. And I want to make sure they understand me. And it's always funny because sometimes what happens is people come with this very, very specific idea because they've been talking to their brother-in-law and the brother-in-law has this plan and they want that same plan, but it just is not suitable for them. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, Alan, their brother-in-law might have a trust and an irrevocable trust and a revocable trust and something else, and they don't need all that legal work. So I try very hard never to give them anything more than they need. If they still want it after I tell them they don't need it, I'll do it because I want them to be happy. But I'm always very careful that they understand what this is all about, what it accomplishes, and what you need.
That's terrific. So do you do say a 1 hour consultation first with someone, or you might bring them in and that's part of your procedure?
We do a half-hour free consultation for just about everybody. Let me say up to, because what that is about is to find out, can I help you? Is this a good fit for you? Then we continue, and if they are going to continue, and because then it would start on an hourly rate of a consultation. However, if they hire me to do the work, any consultation fees are deducted from the flat fee.
Sure.
So because sometimes it just takes a little bit more complexity. Unfortunately, sometimes people are just coming and like taking information and then doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So
that happens in every field, you know.
Exactly.
Right.
So I have to protect myself a little bit there too, but that's not a lot. Thankfully, it's not a lot. I have been really, really blessed with really wonderful clients,
right,
and always happy to work with them.
That's terrific, and I like the flat fee. Obviously, if you have to go into a lawsuit and other things, you have to charge more, obviously. But people do know what they are getting. In a way, it's like an a la carte. You know, right. I need this, I need that, and they know what they're paying. They're comfortable. I think clients feel comfortable. It's 500, it's 1,000, whatever the number might be. I'm not mentioning your numbers, but okay, they know what they're spending and they get the job done, as opposed to, like you said, you know, maybe going by the hour. And I also think it works out for you because some clients might take shorter than the
right,
time you allowed it in that fee, and you got it done fast, and you kind of not made out, but it was an easy deal. Well, somebody might be a little bit more complicated, and you had to put a little bit more time. So if you average out all your clients, it probably is the right way to go. So
you hit the nail right on the head. That's exactly where I tried to come to, was what's fair for the client, what's fair for me. We have the flat fees that are for single people, for couples, and we allow for economy of scale. So when I'm doing a couple, it's not an entire new matter. So yeah, therefore, it's less expensive than two single people.
Of course.
If they do more work with me, there's also an economy of scale. So we reduce some of the expenses because it means my time is less. In one meeting, I can talk to you about everything. I don't have to have all separate meetings. So we try very hard to be fair to the client and fair to us. This is our business. But I'll tell you, it works out. The biggest thing for me with the flat fee is I don't have clients that are unhappy. Mm-hmm. They know what it's going to cost when they start, and they either agree to it or they don't. And if they don't, for whatever reason, right, we don't continue.
Yes.
If they agree, then so I don't get people reviewing a bill and not understanding, well, what was this for? What was this for? Hey, this is what we did.
Great. All right. So we talked a lot about that for the personal stuff. Can we switch over to you also have an expertise in real estate. How do you handle, real estate clients, and what do you do in real estate? Again, we try to keep flat fees for real estate so people know what they're going to pay when the time comes. We typically take that payment upon the sale, the actual closing, mm-hmm, or the purchase. So we do purchases and sales and refinances, leasing. We do leasing is a little different, but I'll explain that in a moment. But with we do have flat fees for all of the standard residential. We do also commercial sales of commercial properties. We try to do a flat fee for that also, recognizing that a lot of these are small businesses. So even though it's a commercial sale and it has a lot of extra things that have to go on with it, there's still small businesses. So we try to keep it flat fee. Again, barring unforeseen circumstances. With leases, we do a flat fee to prepare the first draft. And then if there's lots of negotiation afterward, then we start billing on an hourly rate. But it all depends on how much effort goes into it. I have a great paralegal. Lisa Graff is my real estate paralegal, and she works with me. And because real estate deals, and you know this, Alan, they are just so complicated and so time consuming. And I remember the first time I bought a house, so I am always very empathetic with the buyers.
because I remember how terrified I was. Here I am about to put down, go into this huge debt of $250,000, and I have no more money. And, I remember my house in Fairlawn, and they had flushed the hydrants. So the water was dingy coming out of the faucet. And because the house had not been used, the people had been vacant. And I called the water company, and the guy laughed at me. He says, "Don't worry, you're fine. Don't worry." So I take great empathy with people who are about to go into a great deal of debt buying their home and being very nervous about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just laughing because you said they're getting in debt for $250,000, $250,000. Where are you moving to?
Well, this was
yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I did. It was a long time ago. This was like 25 years ago.
You can't buy a house in Fairlawn for $250,000.
You know what? It was one of the little bungalows up behind the All Sports on Pomona Avenue.
A bungalow. That's a good term also. A bungalow. Let's go upstate to the bungalows and go and make great. Yeah, you have a great personality. You take the fear out of talking to an attorney. Really, I mean that. You have a wonderful, easy, friendly personality that makes somebody want to ask you questions. And don't because every question is a good question. Like you said, that initial buyer, when you were a buyer, you're plunking down all the money you got, you're going into the largest debt you ever went into, whatever the number is, and you are nervous about the littlest thing, like dirty water out of your faucet. I mean, should I kill the deal? They probably go to you. Should I kill the deal? No, let it run for a half an hour and you'll be fine. We'll put a filter on it and everything's good. So, the market right now is ridiculous. You're talking real estate. I'm in the real estate business as one of my businesses. I'm finding a lot of times people are, the house is selling for, pick a number, 500. It goes on the market, multiple offers, multiple this and that, cash deals. It sells for 550, 560, 540, whatever the number. What happens when it doesn't appraise at that? Now you're the attorney for them, and you said, well, we put in a high offer, but now the appraisal comes back, but you made the offer at 5, you know what I mean? You gave a high offer. What's your flexibility on something like that?
Well, first of all, we warn all of our clients about this. So before we even get the contract finalized, because we have the 3 days for the attorneys to review it. When I am the seller, and when I'm representing the seller, I actually put into the contract that you cannot cancel this deal just because it doesn't appraise.
Right.
And the buyers may sign that, and maybe they don't. Maybe it makes them step back a little bit. So it's not even before that. We do a kind of a conversation about to our seller. You realize this is so much over market, it may not appraise, and then you might lose them. And so maybe this highest offer is not the best offer. Maybe we should be looking at somebody else. So we do that first. Second is we protect the seller in the contract. Now, when I'm representing the buyer, I do just the opposite. Well, if this doesn't appraise, we get to come back and renegotiate. And, we see who is willing to negotiate those two different opposite provisions, but I'm representing two different people in those situations. When it comes to it, just like with the inspection provisions, we start off, when I'm the seller, I start off every contract with, this is an as is, where is deal.
Right.
Don't come back with any inspection items. And I warn my sellers, well, listen, if they come back, you have to either be prepared to walk away from the deal or negotiate. So a lot of what I try to do is manage expectations, recognizing that it is an extremely emotional time for everybody. We try to remember somebody is selling the home that they love and somebody is buying a home that they want to love. So they don't want to remember this big acrimonious fight during the contract stage or during the closing stage. So we try to work together. And I do find that most real estate attorneys are on the same page with me. But we try very hard to keep it as harmonious as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you said. And I'm thinking of my wife, Evelyn. She's the broker and she handles both sides. And just like you said, when you represent the seller, you try to say, it says is don't come back if it does appraise. And she tries to put that clear and in the contract. We don't care about the appraisal. But then you get the problem is you could do that in attorney review.
Right.
And everybody could back out one way or the other. You might get a higher offer. You might get a stronger offer. You could squash the attorney review. And you said 3 days. I can't remember the last 3-day attorney review. I got one going on now for 3 months is minimum. I have a seller. He sold the house like a half a dozen times. He says he wanted this price, and we get him that, and we got him 40 grand above offer. Well, if I'm getting that, I'm not accept, and he didn't accept it. We put it back on the market. Now we put it back on the market for 685 from 650. We got him 650. He didn't sign it. Now it's at 7, and he didn't sign it. And then they got into the rider. Now, you as the agent are going, maybe I should drop it, but I already have X amount of hours. I can't drop it. So we had buyers, and now he's stuck with one buyer who is now, they finally got through the rider, but now he finally signed the rider, which was a miracle. Now the other side is holding back. So like you said, you have a flat fee. So now you're involved a lot more than a deal that goes smooth. So
well, I will say in those situations, if we have a couple of contracts, we do have another flat fee for a canceled contract. So it's just, and it nowhere near is our time, the actual time that went into it. But we are trying to protect our clients, and we're trying to keep them happy. We just need them to understand that there is certain matters that are outside of a standard closing. And these are some of them. It used to be the radon. It used to be asbestos way back when.
Yes.
Because I've been doing this for 35 years. So asbestos was the big one when I first started. Then it went to the radon. Now it's the underground oil tanks, certainly the abandoned ones. And what has always changed over these years, because you abandon an oil tank in accordance with the rules of that time. And now you find out that's not good enough. Now you have to actually excavate the oil tank. Wow. So you remember when you could abandon the oil tank in place and pump out the oil, fill it up with some sand or some gravel. And now everybody's asking to have it removed. So we try very hard to keep our clients managing their expectations, anticipating what the buyers would be requesting of a seller and vice versa. We have memos that we give to our clients so that they have it written down, and go get your certificate of occupancy and contact your utilities and just everything that they need to kind of follow as we get closer to closing. A lot of realtors, and I don't know if you do this, but a lot of realtors are being very helpful when it comes to helping, especially during COVID, helping people get the certificates of occupancy and the fire certificates. Sure. I don't know if you do this, the cleaning out of the houses for people to help them do that also. They just can't do it. Mom has been in the house forever. The kids are no longer nearby. So it's not easy for the families to help. So they need to rely on their realtor to help them get that taken care of.
Sure. As a realtor, on that side of it, you have to do as much as you can and go a little above and beyond, especially it depends who that client is, if it is an elderly person. And also you do want, if you are working with an elderly, to make sure, even if it's only the senior or the elderly that owns it on the deed, understand who their children might be, because are they going to come back up after and say, oh, my mom's too old, she shouldn't have even signed that. I don't have enough time to tell you all those stories. They're probably but making sure everything is, who owns the rights to it, who can make that decision, and is everybody making this decision at the same time and on the same page.
Exactly. And that's where you want to avoid that conflict. This is where having the good financial power of attorney is very necessary, and an updated one, and one that says about real estate. Because we have had situations where a client signs a contract and then becomes incapacitated. So if we have the financial power of attorney, the deal goes through smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't, we have to go for a guardianship. So now we've just added 3 or 4 months minimum before we can sell that house. We had a really amazing one, and I'm patting myself on the back a little bit because I had a situation where the client signed the contract, died unfortunately during COVID, and the surrogate court is just overwhelmed at this point. Yeah. So everything's taking longer. Generally, you probate a will within 4 or 5 days. Nowadays, it's a few months. So we were able to hold the deal together. I was able to contact my title company and make a suggestion how we could close, even though we don't have the official executor appointed yet. And it kept it on track. So we were able to save that deal, which was great, because otherwise it would have gone out of contract, wait to become executor a number of months, and then go back on contract. And the family just couldn't deal with that.
Great. Thank you for all that advice. So I like to wrap it up. Did I leave anything out? Would you like, how about giving a closing statement? Or closing plug? However you like.
I just want everybody to know that we are very, very careful about COVID. So during COVID, we're taking all the extra precautions. Our office is very, very safe. We're making accommodations so that all the clients feel safe. So we have signed documents in the parking lot. I am happy to go to people's homes and stand on their porch while they're signing so that they feel safe. I go to care facilities. The governor has allowed us to notarize documents via Zoom or other virtual technique. So I don't have to bring all these people with me. I can have it notarized. I just would also ask people, please update your documents. Make sure you have the original documents, because we've had people who think they have their documents, but they only have a copy, and that's not good. You need the original. Make sure it's updated. We have a special program here because I believe in this so much that when your children turn 18, they are legally adults. They should sign a power of attorney. And as long as they're naming their parents as the agents or the powers of attorney, we do it at a streamlined, discounted price because it's very important. You hope you never need it, but if you need it, you'll be very happy to have it. I want to remind everybody about veterans benefits because people don't know about them, or they don't realize that the veterans benefits are benefits for the spouse or widow or widower of the veteran also. We talked about updating your named agents on your life insurance, on your 401k, and a lot of people are seeking protection from Medicaid, and they confuse the tax laws with the Medicaid laws. The tax laws allow you to make gifts of $15,000 per year to people, anybody. The Medicaid say, nothing. Do not make any gifts to anybody. So those are kind of the highlighted things that we try to promote to our clients to educate people. I've given seminars. I love when I go over to the senior center here in Fair Lawn because the people there are just so knowledgeable and ask really good questions. And I guess if anybody does have a question, please feel free to contact me. I've got my website and I'm available.
Tell us your website, please.
It's the patonlawfirm.com. Paton is 1 T, Paton. Confuses everybody. So.
There you go. But that's why you said it.
Yes. So if anybody needs more information, please feel free to give us a call. As I said, half-hour free consultation, no obligation. Just like to get people educated so that they're protected.
Great. I really want to thank you for this. And like I said earlier in the interview, you're taking the fear out of working with an attorney.
Good.
No, it's true. I mean, some are very dry and a little intimidating, and it's wonderful. So I really want to thank you for joining us today on this Business Spot.
I appreciate this, Alan, and thank you very much for hosting this. I know this has to be a lot of work for you, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I get time and a half. Don't worry about it. Time and a half above zero is zero. No, I really do. I appreciate that, and I do appreciate helping you spread the knowledge, spreading some of my knowledge, and it's always good to give back to the community and the people that we live and work with in our town
Absolutely.
and around the world. To that. So I'd like to again thank Kimberly Paton, the owner and founding partner of the Paton Law Firm LLC here in Fair Lawn on Broadway. I had to get in because I played in the Broadway pits, guitar and banjo, for 40 years. So I had to get that in. And I also played with Charlie Thomas of the Drifters, who they made on Broadway famous.
Wow. I am so impressed with that.
So anyway, it's been delightful, really speaking.
Same here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Cohen. I am on the board of directors with the Fair Lawn Chamber of Commerce. This has been a Business Spotlight with Kimberly Paton, owner, founding partner of the Paton Law Firm. Thank you very much. Everyone be safe, and all the best to everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.